My name is TwoSense Hernandez. I am 25, hailing from Sacramento, California. I'm a spoken word artist or poet, a dancer, videographer, photographer, and I work at Apple.
Dear son, how you doing today? I know you had a rough day, but it's okay because tomorrow very well may be great. See, I remember how you felt when you felt that way. I was there. But let me remind you that I'm here to hold you dear like the prefix to this letter, dear self.
I was always in trouble. I was always curious too, and I was witty. I was a smart mug when I was a kid. I actually recently told my dad this, but I used to, as a kid, have my dad sit down with me and do some of my homework with me, and then never turn my homework in. But then my defense would be my dad saying that he sat down and did his homework, did my homework with me. So I was very mischievous. I was a troublemaker. I was loud. I was always happy. I was always whistling. The yard duties asked why I whistle all the time, and I said because I'm happy. As a natural response, before I knew whistling was correlated with happiness. But I feel like I was very annoying too as a kid. Love making noises, abstract, hyper, dancing all the time. Yeah. For the longest, I didn't have an artistic name. I danced with the Goodfellas. I still dance with the Goodfellas for about 4 or 5 years now. I was talking to my boy Paul. I was like, yo, I need a name, damn it. So we were just pondering names that I could possibly be, and the name TwoSense came up because I literally always have something to say. And I kind of made it a double entendre, so I think some of the most important senses on a body, me being who I am as an artist, are sight and sound. So those are the two senses that I try to invoke through my dancing and poetry. As an artist, I have an advantage in the world because I am an artist. I recently read in a book that as an artist, we should have the ability to devise multiple options and pick the best one. If I wasn't doing anything artistic, I wouldn't be able to devise options for myself or look forward to a future that wasn't boring. As a man of many talents, the jack of all trades, master of none, I always cycle through what I want to focus my time and energy on as far as an artist. And right now, it is very focused on being a spoken word artist. I would love to tour more. I've been on a tour before with the Nightwalkers sessions, but I want to tour more, get paid for booking jobs. So I'm working on an album and maybe a book, depending on how I like the album, because I feel like my poetry is definitely better heard than read. I think what separates everybody, every artist, is the story they choose to tell in poetry will always be based off of perspective. So that is how I'm different. A lot of my poems is, I like to place my feet in the shoes of somebody else and then interpret the way that I think they would interpret it, or how I interpret it in those situations. So for a lot of my poetry, it's taking the perspective of myself or somebody else. The hardest part about what I do is trying to balance being an adult and being a kid. I have this idea about myself that I can be 12 in one moment and 50 in another. And that goes with a lot of aspects of my life, but I think the thing that makes it hardest to be an artist and do what I do is the fact that I do have to work a 9 to 5 to supply equipment for me being a videographer, putting food in my stomach, gas in my tank, a roof over my head. If these things weren't a necessity, I'm sure I'd be able to focus all my energies without risk to being an artist. But then again, risk is what makes an artist an artist. So then I guess I can ask myself, am I putting my best foot forward by not taking the risk of being a starving artist? Because I don't want to be a starving artist. I find myself an optimist. I'm a very optimistic person. It may not seem as such in my poetry, but a way that I could get through is by writing poetry, by understanding what I'm feeling through chaos. I parallel poetry with chaos because I have a very chaotic mind. I like that I can make sense of myself while not making sense of myself. So through poetry, I can understand myself, and I best explain things through analogy just naturally. So I think poetry helps with that. Imagine your body is a Coke bottle and you put Mentos in it and you shake it up and the Coke bottle tops on it and it won't open, like it won't burst or anything like that. So the only way I can make myself burst is by unscrewing that top by writing or dancing. The best part about what I do is my ability to touch people and reach people's ears and help them see a different perspective of the situations. Some of the best moments I've had were after a performance. Somebody would come up to me in tears or hug me and stuff, and it literally comes a moment where I don't know what to do. Like I want to cry, but I don't want to cry. I want to be happy as hell, but then the poem that they're coming to hug me about isn't happy. So I immediately have to like apologize first and then say thank you. But I think the most rewarding part is the reaction to people that can relate to my words. As far as inspiration goes, now I have this flaw, maybe not a flaw, but I have this thing where I don't like looking up other people's stuff, or I don't like seeing everybody else doing what I'm doing or doing what I think I'm doing, because I don't want to accidentally think I'm biting somebody. So I prefer to kind of keep my own self as my inspiration, and then if I just so happen to do what somebody else does, cool, because I didn't know about it. But just to give an answer, I'd say my father for sure, because he still writes, still working on albums, still plays jazz every Sunday, still gets booked for gigs, gets paid tons of money. Got placed in the Black Hall of Fame in Alexandria, Virginia recently. Definitely my father, I'd say, is one of my biggest inspirations as an artist, but not for content. I don't want to be successful. I want to be prosperous for sure, but being successful means I'm going to be somewhat satisfied. To me, it means I might be satisfied on where I'm at, but I never want to be satisfied. My idea of being satisfied with what I'm doing is, yeah, making money off of what I do. But I think more so important than money would be reaching an audience that needs to hear what I have to say, or believing that I have something to say to an audience. I am TwoSense, and I'm an artist.